So I'm just going to state an unpopular opinion right now. I don't really like summer all that much. It's too hot. I don't have air conditioning. Hey everybody, welcome back. With that whiny intro out of the way, here is a combo monthly wrap-up for the books I read in both May and in June. I didn't get a chance to do a May wrap-up yet because I was moving. I literally moved May 30th, so I had no time to film anything and to do anything because everything was packed. It was chaotic. Moving is normally pretty chaotic, but I moved and I'm staying put for a while yet. So I'm going to include all of the books that I read in May and in June. So for the month of May and June, I read a total of 11 books, 2 of which were novellas, 1 was a novella bind-up, and 1 was an ebook. The first book I read was sent to me for review, and that is The Beautiful Pretender by Melanie Dickerson. This was a LitFuse blog tour book sent to me by LitFuse for the publishers, and I have already posted a full and honest review on that, so you guys can check that out up there. I gave it a 5-star rating, but I have yet to give a Melanie Dickerson book anything lower than a 4-star. Absolutely adored the characters, especially the side characters, and cannot wait for The Noble Servant coming out next year. The next book was also sent to me for review, and that was the Sirens Song by Mary Weber. This is the 3rd book in the Storm Siren trilogy. I was actually disappointed, mostly in the content of this book, and I will also be posting a full video review of this one because it was a review book. The premise of this book was excellent, with a young woman with abilities to control the elements and all these different types of people that can control different types of elements. And the premise of this book was great, but the execution of it was a little lacking. This is a debut trilogy, so I did factor that into when I reviewed them. And the second book did end with a twist that made me think that it was possibly going into a direction that it was exciting for, but it kind of fell flat in that direction, wasn't taken, unfortunately. So I only gave this one actually a 2-star rating, just because I was kind of disappointed in the entire series overall. The next book I read was a novella that was The Vow by Jody Hedlund. This is the prequel novella to the Uncertain Choice trilogy. Although I have found with most prequel novellas, it is good to read the prequel novellas after you've read the first book, because then you're immersed in the world, you understand the characters and what they've gone through. This novella was a nice background story to the promise and the vow that was made regarding Lady Rosemary, so you get more of a background of how and why that was made. Overall, I gave it a 3-star rating. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't something that kind of gave me an aha moment to the background. It was just a cute story that went along with it, but it wasn't anything spectacular. But like the 2 books in the Uncertain Choice trilogy I've read so far, it had excellent writing, great characters, and I did enjoy the story. It just didn't have to be there if it didn't need to be. The next book I read was a novella bind-up, and that was Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. I was really excited that this finally came into my library. I am planning eventually on buying these books because they are incredible books. But I finally got to read Stars Above, and I did post as I was reading updates with my ratings per story, so I'm not going to go into each story individually. There were some stories that I was excited for that I actually didn't like as much as I liked stories that I didn't think I would like. So the ones I didn't think I liked more than the ones I thought I would like. It was interesting. And all of those books were just great backgrounds to these already fantastic characters. One story, which I forget the title of unfortunately, but it's kind of the wrap-up to Winter, was just an adorable additional story, because Winter wrapped up so satisfyingly, but you still would like more, but you didn't need more. And having that kind of finale story that happened there was excellent, and it was so good to see all the cast of characters together as they were after we left them in Winter. So I gave it a 4-star rating. Some stories, I think the lowest I gave a story to is a 3-star rating, but most of them got 4 or 5-star ratings. I then picked up Wolf by Ryan Groudon. This book is kind of an alternate history. What happens is, instead of the Allies winning World War II, the Axis power, mostly Germany and Japan, win World War II, and now Germany has most of the control of Germania. This features Yael, who is a young Jewish girl escaped from a concentration camp, who has these special abilities. She is part of the resistance and is given a huge task to do, and she is to win a cross-country motorcycle race all the way from Germania to Japan to win a chance to meet Hitler in person and have an audience with him. And her purpose for doing that is to kill Hitler. This story has an excellent premise and an excellent background and just builds up for this grand adventure, and it just sounded so cool. What kind of let it down is that Yael is supposed to be impersonating the year's previous winner, Adele Wolfe. Now, she doesn't know any of the personal background details of Adele. She knows her daily schedule, she knows her personal life, but she doesn't know little inside jokes or interactions between Luca Lowell and Adele's brother, who I forgot the name of. So she's put with these two young men, and Luca definitely has some sort of history with Adele, and of course Adele's brother has a lot more on her than Yael even knows. And there's just so many moments where Yael's story could just blow up in her face, and it's just so much riding on that she completes this mission that it was just kind of stressful reading this. Like, so much could go wrong. It just seemed like some of those plot holes were sacrificed for the premise and the overall achievement of it, which it was still really well done, but it just kind of lacked something in between. Overall, the premise was really well executed. I did give it a 4-star rating. I will give this one a bit of a content warning, though. There's some drugs and alcohol references, not very much. It's mostly just smoking, if you're fine with that. There might be a few sexual innuendos, but I didn't catch too many. And the other thing is there's a little bit more swearing, but a lot of it is in German. So if you're okay with swearing in another language, then you'll be fine with this one. But yeah, most of the swearing is in German or Japanese, and the Japanese I didn't get. So I then picked up the novella by Ryan Groudon, and that was Iron to Iron. This focused mainly on Luca Lowell's character and Adele's Wolfe character. And this was that background story that we were dying for in Wolf by Wolf that happened the previous year on the Axis tour between Luca and Adele. So that goes into their actual history, the background, and what happened between those two. So it was really interesting to read it, but I hated Adele Wolfe's character. I really liked Yael as Adele. I didn't like the real Adele. I didn't like the chemistry between Luca and Adele, and they had a really toxic relationship. This one I give a slightly more of a content rating to. There was a lot more sexual references, still with the smoking and the alcohol, and again with the German swearing. There was a little bit more in there, even though it was a smaller book. So that one gave a slightly higher content rating to. But overall, I gave a 2-star rating to, just because it was a background story I was hoping for. I mean, I still got the background story that I needed, but it could have been executed better. And Adele's character bothered me. I then picked up book 6 in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by J.K. Rowling. I am really enjoying being part of this Potter party, and try saying that 5 times fast. This is not my first take of saying that. I'm really enjoying being part of this Harry Potter universe. I really like these books. I love growing and watching these characters all grow up together, and you just get so invested in all these characters. Speaking of getting invested in characters, I'm still getting over what happened in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So I have yet to pick up the Deathly Hallows because I kind of got on a Half-Blood Prince hangover. I gave this a 4-star rating just because there's other books I've enjoyed more in the series so far, but I still thoroughly enjoyed this book series. These are such fantastic books. I just enjoy being so immersed in them. From my library, I then picked up Love, Lies, and Spies by Cindy Ainsty. I don't know how to say her last name, but that's nothing new. This is a Regency-era comedy, romance, spies, and espionage type book. Julia joins her rich aunt and uncle and her cousin, and both of the young girls are being launched into society and going to their first season, it's called, basically, where they go man-hunting for a summer. Julia is not interested in the season, however. She is more interested on getting her scientific works published on the Lady Beetle. Her and her father do a lot of study on the Lady Beetle, going to London for that purpose rather than going to London for all the parties and the plays and the manhunt. Along the way, she meets Spencer Northam, who is there in London for more than just the season. Spencer is a spy trying to track down a traitor who is selling them out to France. I really did enjoy this story, although it was really slow moving at some points. Like, it took forever to anything to happen. It was Jane Austen without the wit and the writing of Jane Austen. With this one, not a lot happens in the book and you're just wanting something to happen because you know there's some sort of espionage and spy game going on, but there's no action to it. It was kind of anticlimactic and really predictable, which was kind of unfortunate. But it was well done. I will give a slight bit of content rating for one of the other gentlemen was trying to make moves on Julia that were inappropriate, but she does get rescued at each time. And of course, light British swearing. I call it British because it's appropriate historical, so a little bit of content warning just for that one roguish character, but other than that, I would guarantee it a clean read. I only gave it a 3-star rating just because through half of it I was pretty bored and the ending was pretty predictable. But if you like a slow-moving book to kind of take your time through, I would recommend it. I then picked up another Regency adventure story, and this was Newt's Emerald by Garth Nix. This one did not disappoint. The adventure was there from start to finish. The characters were strong. It was a shorter book, so it felt like a lot of things were rushed, but it was still really well executed. Lady Trussell's family heirloom has been stolen. There's this heart-shaped emerald, and she is on a search to find it under the premise of going to her first season. So a lot of girls going to their first season and finding a husband in these books. What I liked about these books is not only are the main characters given a lot of attention and detail, is that the side characters also bring so much to the story. Lady Trussell's aunt is eccentric and amazing and adorable, and I loved her. It was great. Also in this world, you have a Regency time period, but you also have people who have the ability to do magic. So magic is like an everyday thing. Lady Truthful's emerald has magical elements to it, and some people have abilities to do kind of glamours, kind of like Queen Lavanna from the Lunar Chronicles. So you have like glamour magic, elemental magic, and other things, but they're not really used everyday things. You still have that Regency time period history where magic is not just used left, right, and center. Overall, the premise of this book was well executed, the characters well written, and the story kept you going, so I gave it a 4-star rating. I can't remember if there was too much content. I don't believe so, so I would guarantee this a clean read. If I don't remember it, it probably didn't happen because a lot of those things stick to my mind. So it guaranteed a clean read, and it was a 4-star rating for me. The next book I read, I requested from NetGalley, and it was an ebook, and I read it on my phone, and it was The Neverland Wars by Audrey Greathouse. So I requested this from NetGalley because it sounded interesting, and it would be nice to finally read a Peter Pan retelling where Peter Pan is not a psycho. In this book, however, magic is real and it is limited, so it's not an unlimited resource. The adults of today's world are trying to keep children from using magic up frivolously. So like Santa Claus, going to Neverland, and all those fun magical things. Adults are using them for solving a budget crisis and how our cell phone works and Wi-Fi. That's what they're using magic for. What a waste. Gwen wakes up to find her younger sister vanished and then ends up joining her in Neverland, finding out that there is actually some sort of war going on between the adults of her world and Peter Pan in Neverland. The premise of this book was interesting. The execution was just weird. Honestly, while I was reading it, I felt like I was on this weird trip the entire time. It was just a really strange story. It's almost like the Neverland you knew, but a really sad, drug-induced version of it. I don't know how else to put it. It was just an interesting take on it. While they were in Neverland, there was a really clean, childlike innocence to it. And then when Gwen comes back to our world, or today's world, it's all of a sudden content kind of blew up. The last 2 chapters had everything you could throw into a book for content. It had a party where there was marijuana usage, drug usage, drinking. There was F-bombs left, right, and center, and swearing, people sneaking off to bedrooms. And it was just very realistic of today's world. It was almost like reading a news story or something. So it was very strange to go from that childlike innocence to that content-filled reality. And it was an interesting concept, it just was very strange to go from one place to another. So I only gave it a 2-star rating for content purposes, and I didn't like the way the story flowed, and when it ended, I just didn't care whether or not I pick up the next book. So unfortunately, it wasn't a favorite for me. The next book I read probably became one of my favorites of 2016 so far, and it was a homewarming gift from Melanie from Christian YA Books and More. So thank you, Melanie, for sending one of my favorite books of the year. And that was Close to You by Kira Isaac. Close to You is a contemporary Christian romance. And why I say that is because I typically don't read contemporary Christian romances, because I personally think most of them are lame and they all have the same storyline and I just can't get into them. This one, however, is a Tolkien-themed Christian contemporary romance. It has Tolkien quotes, Tolkien themes, takes place in New Zealand, and also takes place through most of the movie locations, which I thought was amazing. It was like a romance written for geeks. It follows Alison Shire, yes, she did an excellent play on names, Alison Shire and Jackson Gregory. Alison Shire has been disgraced in the academic world and kind of has left some personal issues and has become a tour guide for the film locations of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbits movies. Jackson Gregory has lost everything, his business, his girlfriend has left him, taking all of his business secrets to his biggest rival. To kind of make back the money that he has lost, to help his investors, he pairs up with a great uncle he just met and has to prove himself a true Tolkien fan. Of course, Allison spies the fake Tolkien fan off the get-go, and they have a little bit of fun and shenanigans that ensue. The faith elements that were woven in this were just perfection. The use of Tolkien's themes and quotes to bring out those faith elements, and the character development was fantastic. It didn't give you that immediate happily ever after, but it left you very satisfied at the end. I was very happy with this. I was happy with the characters. I had a lot of laughs, and I had a lot of nerd moments that was just perfect. I left this book needing to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's how good it was. So, highly recommend this one. Gave it an obvious 5-star rating. So that's all the books I read in the month of May and June. Honestly, for the last week of June, I didn't read anything because I was so hung up on Close to You, I just couldn't pick anything else up. You know when a book is that good, when it puts you in a reading slump, because nothing else is going to live up to it. If you want more information or more thoughts on them, leave them in the comments below, or comment on my Goodreads reviews of these. I think I fell behind, so I will be catching up on those. But either way, you can chat with me in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow me on my other social medias, Twitter and Instagram. Happy belated Canada Day for all my Canadian friends and myself, because I am Canadian. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye! I am thoroughly enjoying finally being part of the part of... I am finally enjoying being part of the part... I am finally being... I am finally enjoy... I am really enjoying being part of this Potter party.